Greetings, true believers. Geek Show here, talking about the latest season of The Mandalorian. Season 3, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Season 3, or as I like to call it, the Bo-Katan story. So I'm fine with that.
It's about
She
Mandalorians.
was the Mandalorian.
Yep.
Yes, she was. And that
Nice
was
pants.
Very good
I
pants.
agree. Great
High quality pants.
And that was the complaint that I was seeing on the internet, is that this is all about Bo-Katan. And I said, so?
Okay.
Did you guys see the interview that she did where she made a sex joke and then men of the internet made it weird?
Come on. We don't do that. I mean, they don't do that.
Not all men.
You guys.
But Katie Sackhoff has come so far. And I didn't know this. When she got the job as Starbuck on Battlestar Galactica, she really hadn't done much acting at all.
The coffee shop?
What's the coffee shop?
Starbuck?
She just pretty much jumped into it,
get it.
and it was Edward James Olmos who really coached her on the set of
Good
Battlestar
coach.
Galactica. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're going to have anybody
What a
coaching
coach to
you.
have, yeah.
That hack?
And he would say
Eddie Jimmy
things like,
Olmos?
he'd say things like, "You're just all you're doing is you're just trying to say your lines right after someone else. You can't do that. It's a conversation.
Acting is reacting.
You need to listen to what the person is saying and then and I thought, boy, what a great time to learn how to act on the set of a show like that with Edward James Olmos.
Yeah.
But she has certainly come correct with this role as Bo-Katan. She's just she owns it. She's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. Just terrific. Thoughts?
Well, it's amazing that a character that was originally created for animation is this well-rounded, and that gives me a lot of hope for Ahsoka.
Oh, yes.
When that comes out, because you have a lot of characters from Rebels coming forward to fruition. But the difference here is that the Rebels characters are not being played by their voice actors, whereas Bo-Katan is being played by her voice actor, which is really, really quite unusual. But they created the character for Katie Sackhoff, and then she continued to play her later on in live action, and she was great. And as far as The Mandalorian, we should have called this season Some Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put an S, the Mandalorian.
An assortment of Mandalorians. What do you call it? What do you call it? Like a business of ferrets or a parliament of squirrels? Like, what do you call just
Or
like
a
a bunch
murder of
Mandalorians?
crows. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
what
I
do you?
think-
Yeah, what's a bunch of Mandalorians?
I think they're like geese. You call them a gaggle. A
gaggle.
gaggle of
Gaggle.
Mandalorians.
I would call them a pack of jetpacks. It's just
But that was also the one of the fun parts of this season. It was like, how many of my Boba Fett action figures can I have flying through the air and doing all this cool stuff?
And we got Stormtrooper Boba Fett's too by the end of there, which I thought was
Stormtrooper
pretty cool.
Boba Fett's okay.
it was. I was like, wow, the Empire just has a budget.
Oh yeah,
Like,
they do.
it was just-
Well, not only that, but like, Moff Gideon had a budget. He was just
Okay,
like, well,
let's talk
I'm
about that
putting-
for a second.
I'm putting forward my Super Trooper budget. I have Mandalorian alloys.
You
and
fool!
they
Those
can
were just
fly.
my clones.
The suit he got going at the end,
Yes.
I think, is the coolest suit of armor I've seen in Star Wars.
Star
yet.
Wars is
It's like
I loved
Boba
it.
Fett had a baby with Darth Vader, and and a
It even had a
stormtrooper.
slight
As-
voice change modulator going on for it. Oh,
As
man, it's
envisioned
awesome.
by the designers behind Micronauts in 1979.
Hey,
Baron
if it's-
Karza.
Yes,
The Baron
very
Karza
good. It was
look, yes.
very Baron Karza.
Yes.
I
it
loved
looked
it.
great. It was just
And-
so fun to see that.
Did you notice from the sound? He's also got muscle enhancers in that suit.
Yeah.
It's a mechanized. It's a
Goodness
mechanized Mandalorian
gracious.
suit of armor.
Yep.
It was so cool.
Yeah, he's
But
just
just-
like, RoboCop's got nothing on me.
Well, just the
a bit
return to
much.
Mandalore. Can we talk about the return to Mandalore just for a second? Just, I mean, because
Awesome.
like that, I loved the fact that, like I'm knowledgeable about Star Wars, but not like super knowledgeable. But it was cool to just, all right, we're going back to Mandalorians and understanding like, oh, they're an underground kind of civilization.
Yeah, they're
And then
the
that was-
dwarves of Star Wars.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, that is a solid comparison, but like I know
They are
people,
dwarves.
I know people cringe when you say that, but
No,
it
it is. They are.
it's a gateway. It's a
They
gateway.
might, They're miners, they hold grudges, and they live underground. They're definitely the dwarves of Star Wars.
Dwarves of Star Wars.
But it was just so cool to see, like, okay, they have the traditionals that are stuck to the old lord. This is the way. Then you have the folks that take the mask off. Then you have the survivors. That was like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, we have the people so we had 3 different tribes all coming together to be, and like when they were saying we are Mandalorian, like with the big forge, I was like, yo, I want all of this.
It's awesome.
Also a huge payoff for people who watch Clone Wars, because the Watch is the remnant of the Death Watch, and the Death Watch was a terrorist organization that was hell-bent against the rule of Satine, who was bringing a pacifist movement to Mandalore. And at the time, they had to live in domes because they'd ecologically destroyed the surface of the planet, which they came full circle with in this last episode when they showed the caves with the indigenous life, with the native landscape coming to fruition there. So it definitely this bit where they said, okay, you guys used to be the bad terrorists, you were terrible and horrible, you dropped the death part of the Watch, but we're going to bring you back home because we're all Mandalorians. And that's
I love it.
pretty good stuff.
The fact that I hate giving the Empire credit where credit is due, but the strategic genius of making a base on a,
on a planet that was believed to be glassed,
and then using it for resources to fund your operation.
Yep.
Glassing in
Capitalism,
particular-
baby.
Glassing is such an amazing thing, because I can't remember what science fiction novel it first popped up in, but basically you hit the surface of a planet with so much energy that the surface turns to glass, and they pulled that off. Not something I ever thought I would see ever in a science fiction show.
Yeah.
Another thing they did that I thought was amazing is I called this about 2 episodes in that I felt like they were going to be tasked with fixing episode 9. And when they started talking about Project Necromancer and the cloning but this is also the season where they gave us our Thanos moment, where Grand Admiral Thrawn being teased enough where they're able to say, okay, this is our Thanos, this is what's pulling Ahsoka, Mandalorian, Boba Fett, any other characters that they throw in during this story arc, this period, 5 years after Return of the Jedi, where they can say, okay, now we're going to pull this all together with Thrawn as our unifying bad guy. And
Now remember, we're calling him Thranos from now on.
I love it.
Ted Thranos. Now, what was also very good about this show was that I think you could watch it without going into the animation background stuff that we were talking about.
Oh,
You
see,
could
here's
watch
the
it and
thing.
catch it.
That's me right here. I haven't watched any of the animation stuff. I still
So
love it.
I haven't either, but I am of the opposite opinion of you guys, of like, oh, is this show starting to not be for me anymore? Because it felt like there was a lot of stuff that I mean, I can get by just fine without it, but there's a lot of stuff that, hey, this is really cool if you know what's going on. And I don't. So, and that's fine. It's okay if the show is not for me anymore.
Well, I would think that you wouldn't have to watch the entire run of the animated stuff. Probably just certain
No.
episodes, and I would imagine that's on the internet if you were to ask.
There's only
But I
9
don't like
of them, and I
I
can
don't
tell you
like
which ones to watch.
I don't like homework at all.
It feels
So-
like homework to when you put it that
Yeah.
way.
Says the woman who literally dives headfirst into spoilers for every movie before she goes to watch them. I don't
And
like
make
homework.
spreadsheets.
And make spreadsheets.
Yeah, because that's.
I'm not
that's
saying
for
that's
my-
a call.
that-
You broke. Oh,
No,
she
I
cracked
know,
for a
but
second.
They
no,
got
listen,
you.
that's
I'm in
because I
trouble now.
choose to do that. I choose to do those
Right.
things for
You
in my
didn't
own
have
fun
to.
time. I don't have to for credit. Okay.
I get you there. I get you there. I get you there. I get you there.
But yeah, there's Lee says there's like 9 episodes, so maybe you go and
Sure, I don't want to have to do that though.
I think they did a good enough job of summarizing what you needed to know.
Yeah,
like they
'cause
talk about how the cities were underground because of warfare, and they talked about. But yeah, I get it. Like my wife did the same thing, where she was like, "Do I need to go back and watch Rebels or Clone Wars to understand this?" And it's like I don't feel like you do, but maybe that's the whole point, is just to feed you enough little morsels that you do go back and watch.
I was going to
And
say,
that's the thing,
here's
like I got it. I caught up. I kept up, but
see, I watched those cartoons, but I forgot about them. So
right.
It's been a while. I mean,
It's been almost
a
20.
while.
It's been almost 20 years.
yeah.
so I got to say something though. there was no payoff at all in that season for that poopy episode about the geneticist guy, where there was an entire episode dedicated
I mean,
to.
kind of.
There was no payoff. There was nothing.
We
He
learned
never
that
came back in. The character.
Well, no, because they tortured him to death.
They didn't say they killed him. They said they were going to torture him. Though.
But
It was
It
a
was
Swamp Thing looking
scrambly
dude.
brain.
Swamp Thing.
There was, that episode.
What? Oh,
you
that
could've-
guy, he died.
You could have
okay.
completely cut that episode out of the season, and it would not have changed anything.
But I enjoyed
in
that
the season.
episode
Oh,
because
see,
I
fell
love that.
asleep.
That was
I fell
that and the beat cop when Bo and Mando are beat cops because they were so different. I loved those and I ate them up very much. But
Yes.
and then they go just back to whatever it is that I need to be doing homework for that I don't want to do homework for. Sorry, my
I
thoughts
think-
are all over the place.
What I
Well, I
liked
think-
about the geneticist episode was looking into the
biscuits.
Rebels won, and they've taken over Coruscant, and meet the new boss, same as the old
So,
boss. I loved
Exactly.
that bit.
That's why I liked it.
I'll give you that. I liked that aspect of it, and I liked that you got a little bit of lore of Coruscant when you saw the tallest peak in Coruscant was the only exposed.
Do you remember what Galactica did for this kind of stuff?
Made it good.
Galactica did web shorts that covered all of that stuff.
Okay, yeah.
That
and
guy's,
they could have done that.
That guy's episode did not necessarily need to be 40 minutes into. I think Carrie's right. It was important information, but did he need a whole episode pretty much to himself to be a character that is referenced later, where they could have just done a web episode and said, if you want to know more, here you go.
Or they could have even just spliced pieces of that episode into the rest of the episode and showed his journey as kind of an underlying subtext that you refer to in each of the episodes. Like, yeah, here's what's happening with the new boss. I don't know.
I hate to play the veteran card, but it was a weird. I enjoy that episode in a way because when you deploy, there's a scene where they're talking about I miss this being on this planet and deploying in the biscuits. That whole dialogue that was for me personally. Granted, I've never participated in something like that, but it's just let's be very clear. But I enjoy that type of dialogue because it did feel like old veterans reminiscing, and I was like, what happens after Empire falls? What happens after you hang up the uniform and now you have a different job? Like, he's sitting there in those cubicles working a different job. I got my buddies that are just retired, and they're just saying they're bored of the cubicle now, and they miss those. So I get why some people don't like it, but I loved it for a different reason. So, but I totally get why
Star
people
Wars,
didn't enjoy
baby.
it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's for everybody. So you find little morsels that you for each and every one of us, and that's what's great about it.
I got to grab something real quick here because I'm going to do a visual here.
They sure were
visual.
throwing that little guy around this season, weren't they?
I was
He was
just about
jumping
to say,
around, too.
He was jumping around.
Yeah.
The way he's walking, I think it's in the last episode where you see his feet do this.
And he just
I'm like-
glides along.
I was like,
kind
what
of.
an insane practical effect to include.
I loved it. I loved that. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the most important character arc.
Oh, some redemption for R5.
Yeah.
R5D4's redemption. He goes from, well, I mean, now that I think about it, he's one of the most important characters in the Star Wars universe, isn't he?
But also,
I think he's got-
maybe
He's a great
sometimes
motivator.
just let things be trash.
Well, canonically, they already worked this in quite a while ago that he canonically was told by R2D2, dude, you got to let me take this job. And so he blew the motivator so that R2 could be bought by the Lars.
Was that
He
in
know-
a comic book or what?
It was in one of the books that Disney
Again,
said is
homework.
canon.
Okay.
Well, that's I guess actually that's a really good point you bring up, Rebecca. Is a lot of us got into all of the extra books and the comics and the homework, as you put it. And so, yeah, you're right. Actually, if you're not thinking about it from the perspective of people who spent their fandom absorbing all of the extra stuff, the homework, yeah, it does seem like a bit of a beating to have to go back and watch all of that stuff. We're just used to it. We've been immersed in it so long that I didn't even think twice about it.
It's the same argument that I get from a lot of people about like comic book movies, Marvel Universe movies, DC
Right.
stuff. They're like,
Right.
why
Oh,
is it
yeah,
this way?
and, like-
Oh, it's that way because of the comic book. I haven't read those. I don't care about those. I just want to watch
Right.
the movie.
Like I was this way with Lost. I was super annoying because I was like, oh, you have to go online and go do like the other thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got hundreds of Boba Fett's flying around. So I was just a little kid with all my Boba Fett's that I was flying around and playing with
Yeah.
when I was
Which
a kid.
is
So
funny. Which is funny when you know about them, like their whole clone deal, right?
I'm gonna be
that you
I'm
have
gonna be
hundreds of them.
that nerd for a second here. The guy that flew up, he was the leader of the other tribe. He flew up and got in the capital ship, and
Oh
Axe.
what was
Axe-Wolves.
it?
Axe-Wolves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Axe-Wolves.
He must have a much better jetpack than the other
Yeah.
tribes.
I was
that
thinking the
were
same.
trying to chase down the dragon earlier in
Well,
the season.
the answer to
because
that is rather
they-
simple, Tony.
What is it?
The answer to that is the the tribal, completely dejected, broke Mandalorians that are living out in the middle of nowhere
Okay.
probably didn't have the fuel reserves that
That's-
Axe-Wolves, a professional mercenary.
That's
who
what I was
flush-
thinking.
Flush with cash and state-of-the-art armor.
So-
he's not cobbling that stuff together. He's got the
Literally-
best Mando armor.
Yeah, literally he has a better jetpack with more fuel. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
his
take that.
his jetpack is probably like the latest edition, and they're all like cobbling together and
Yeah.
hammering together old broke ass armor from 30 years ago.
Okay.
And
He has the
that's-
iPhone 17 or whatever they're
Yes,
on now.
yes, and they're all running iPods.
They're all
from
running Windows 10.
2004.
He's on that Windows 11
Well, they
stuff.
I got an Android phone.
They spent all that
Shut
money.
up, Tony. Hey,
We're not dissing Android.
you think you're better? You think you're better than us because you got an iPhone?
I don't think it.
You guys, the reason why
You
only
mess
Axe...
with one of us. I'm sorry.
Stop it.
don't diss droids.
Yeah.
Don't diss droids.
Exactly. I'm about to give droids their praise because speaking of Axe and the reason why he's got the best jetpack, they didn't have enough money because they spent all of it on red paint to paint that whole damn Imperial cruiser. Shout out to all the droids with their tireless work painting. Can you imagine?
Did you guys?
Yeah, we had one of those too.
Did you guys know that back in 2000 and I want to say 10, when Android was first getting off the ground, the phone OS was first getting off the ground, Star Wars and Motorola did a collaboration where they had the Motorola Droid. You guys remember this? And
No.
it had
You muted. Your sound went away.
Operating
You
Too.
muted
system.
yourself. Yes.
No, he didn't. I muted him.
He muted me. Hey, that's my trick on Gadget Spot. I do that to the guys on Gadget
Yo,
Spot. You don't
that's
do that to me.
Genius.
Anyway, that was cool for us nerds who like geek stuff and nerd stuff.
Ah,
Shut up.
Yeah,
Gary,
shut up, Tony.
Don't diss droids.
You know what I loved about this season? Great character is High Magistrate Grief Karga.
He showed up
I
a
love
lot,
Grief
didn't
Karga.
he?
I love
Yes.
the come up. I love
Very
the
sure-
come up.
They kept going back to Navarro a
I
lot.
loved it.
and he directed a couple of episodes this season
Yeah.
too, which is great. So
Baby, you got a stew going.
they did some good stuff. I mean, we talk about it with just about everything anymore. I recognize there's a lot of people out there hating on it, and if you genuinely didn't like this season, that's fine. That's cool.
Listen,
but
I
we do
didn't
need
like
to-
it. I'm just not being a dick about it.
See? That's
you have
perfect
an
example.
You have an interesting thing that, like, I have a couple friends who also didn't like it, and they're like, I just want more Andor, and I started calling it
That's her.
I started calling it the Andor knock-on effect. Is like Andor really showed people a particular side of Star Wars they very badly wanted to see, and now that they've seen it, that's what they want. And so it's like,
I got you. This is free the first time. You got any more of that Andor?
Andor. I can inject that into my veins.
That's
really-
why I liked the episode with the geneticist, and
Yeah.
the beat cop Mandos, because it's
Yeah.
just a different tone.
It's a
Yeah.
different tone.
It's been the same tone through everything, and it's good tone. It's a good tone. It works.
But Rebecca, this is the way. This is the way.
This is
okay?
the way.
I would
that
like
is
to
a-
try a different way.
Is that your Kenner Boba Fett from
That's a
79?
big Boba Fett.
That's a thick Boba Fett, which reminds
That's
me.
a
R.I.P.
big-
to
that's a-
Vaz
Deferens?
Paz Vizsla?
No,
Vizsla. Yeah. R.I.P. to that thick boy. You know.
Yep. Not the end of the line of the Vizslas. The Vizslas are like the first Vizsla was the one that forged the Darksaber. Like
well, they literally had a whole deal with his son, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ragnar.
Oh, that's
Vizsla.
right.
Well,
That's
okay,
right.
let's talk about the Darksaber for just a sec. What happens now? Is it just broken? It just
Who even cares? It's a
I like that. I like that saber. I thought it was really cool.
They can unify around their new Mandalore, who would be Bo-Katan.
Oh,
and they can rally around her and start a new tradition where the Watch comes together with the new Mandalorians and where they just forge a new path. Basically, it's saying that the old ways are broken, like this saber.
See, I don't care about all that. I want to know if they're going to rebuild the Darksaber because it's a cool lightsaber.
But they can't because
because the symbolism would still be there.
the symbolism's still there, and it's not this is Excalibur in Star Wars.
The lightsaber of Theseus. If you destroy it enough times,
It's literally the person who finds Excalibur in England is King of England and Arthur Rex incarnate. So they have to basically, like, if somebody actually had Excalibur right now, that's worked into their government that person's King of England.
If somebody seriously had Excalibur right now, they would be like the king.
Yeah, pretty much.
They'd have to
Great
fight.
ladies in pawns throwing
Charles.
swords around is not a basis of government.
Sometimes like scimitars. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Mandalorian season 3.
A conversation as rambling and divisive as this season was.
Yes.
Well, I'll just inject some positivity. A lot of people did not like this season, but you know who did? My wife. It is so nice to like my wife never really got into Star Wars, and she always found it very intimidating. So the fact that I could sit down and watch it with her, and she's just all in.
Yep.
So what? Lizzo showed up. So what? Jack Black showed up.
Okay.
So
What do you mean? So what?
Let's talk about that for a second. That was a great episode. I
Exactly.
really enjoyed it.
But everyone's just mad about it. But I'm just like, the whole point of is I love that there's something for everybody in this galaxy. I love that. Yep. I love that. And that's
and like the characters in the show, I'm going to be throwing Grogu into the air at all times because that's what they did on this show.
Just
Kind of threw him in the air, and catch him, and he would
riding
just
around
land
in the
and
corpse of his friend.
yes.
I have a wild rampaging theory about Mandalorian. It has nothing to do with the quality of the show or anything else. This show, the first season, came out during the height of COVID, and we had nothing. We had nothing. We were all despairing of the lives that we had been forced into in hibernation and hiding in our homes so that we don't get this virus. And here we get this silly little show about a space knight and his little adopted son. And we all just said, yes, thank you for giving me that glimmer of hope. And here we are 3 years later, and things aren't quite as bad. And the show seems kind of silly because we're not living in exile anymore.
No, but it's also this, Lee. And you're onto something because it was 2020 when the show came out, and so oh my God, we were all wearing masks. Mandalorian wears a mask. This is the way. Oh my God! And so now that we're not wearing masks anymore, and people aren't as enjoying it, oh my God!
Hi, sorry.
Oh my
So
God!
I get muted. And Jay
Didn't the
doesn't.
show come out?
I mean,
Didn't the show come out in December 2019?
Never mind. Teach these devils. Teach these devils. Open your third eye, God. Rest in peace.
And on that note,
Open it up.
thanks a lot. We'll see you.
Broccoli is man-made.
Broccoli is man-made.
it is man-made.